Dear learners, welcome to week 3, module 2 of the MOOC course on Introduction to Distance and Digital Education. This particular module is on the role of learner support services in open learning. In module 1, you were introduced to the concept of what learner support services is all about, the different components of learner support services, what aspects we need to look into on how to formulate a specific learner support service system, and on the need and importance of learner support services in the field of open and distance learning. This module will basically talk about the role the different learner support services plays in the field of open and distance learning system. Now, as we all know, learner support services is an umbrella term which encompasses many components under it. And almost all the services or the products that are used in the open and distance learning system to facilitate the learning experiment are included under the generic term of learner support services. So basically, such support services includes library services, laboratory facilities, radio counseling, television counseling, and other traditional mode of services. And when we talk about learner support services, as we all know, in comparison with the traditional mode of education system, in comparison with the other mode of education system, under open and distance learning system, the learners are not in a direct face-to-face contact with the tutors or the counselors or the teachers. And that is why, in order to motivate them, in order that they can carry forward their different learning experiences while undergoing the different academic programs, such services are very important aspect. Now, when we talk about the role of learner support services in the field of open and distance learning system, it can best be appreciated if we consider the environment of the distant learners. Now, what role the support services play? We don't need such support services in that huge extent in case of conventional or traditional university. Why we don't need that? Because the learners, they come to attend the classes on a regular basis, except for weekends, of course. And then, of course, they are in direct touch with the teachers. They can clarify their doubts. So in that case, the learner support services are not in a very high demand, in comparison with open and distance learning system. So in open and distance learning system, what happens is that the learners, they don't have to come to they don't have the advantage of attending the regular face-to-face classes. As such, they are being provided with such services. And as learner of any ODL system, one can actually judge the learning environment that is faced by them and can actually appreciate the different outputs. Like for instance, as we have already talked about, there is lack of face-to-face interaction with the teachers. Now, the lack of face-to-face interaction with the teachers is one of the basic features of any distance education system. And most of the learners, they have some amount of conventional education. So, as such, definitely you'll agree that any query or any clarification that you want to make to your teacher was immediately solved. When you might have, undergone some form of educational program in, a conventional university. But in distance education, this is not possible. So, in the absence of a teacher, how can you solve the queries? How can you clarify the doubts? So, on the basis of such factors, the learner support services becomes very important. And second important aspect, when we talk about the role of learner support services in the field of open and distance learning, we see that the counseling sessions that are being organized at least once a week. And this actually helps the learners, in getting their clarifications being met. And it's not only the counseling sessions, an open and distance learning provider or a distance education institute or open university, they may also offer other additional resources, other additional support services like audio CDs, maybe audiovisual CDs. Maybe that particular open university or distance education institute might telecast different TV programs. They might broadcast different radio programs or other phone-in programs or they might have certain other internet-based services. So this kind of services, it kind of helps the learners in overcoming the problem of the absence of face-to-face interaction with the teacher. Now, the second important aspect when we talk about, what role learner support services plays in the field of open and distance learning. The first one, of course, basically learner support services help to, kind of give a sense of belongingness to the learner when they enroll in any program under open and distance learning setup. So they need to be in constant touch with the teacher. They need their different clarifications to be cleared out. They need to know about the working of the administration. They need to know about the different examination process. They need to know about the submission of home assignments. So there is a plethora of queries. There is a list of things to be sorted out when one is undergoing any kind of academic program in the field of open and distance learning. So learner support services come into the foray when we talk about having interaction with the teachers. Since it's not possible, of course, to have direct interaction with the teachers on a daily basis, so this support services kind of helps the learner to maintain a kind of contact with the tutors or the counselors or the teachers to discuss not only academic matters but other administrative issues as well. And second important factor which we talked about is a lack of interaction with the fellow learners. Now, as we have already discussed about, since there is very less amount of contact, face-to-face contact, more specifically with the teachers or with the peer groups. So then what happens is that such support services or that are usually provided. These days, of course, we have the e-support services, the different online support services, where, you can, one can have some kind of communication with their peers. One can have some kind of discussions or deliberations on any issues through different social media platforms or through different online platforms as well. So such kind of interaction with the fellow learners can be held or can be, accentuated through such support services. And in distance education, the formation of a group is not very easy. Okay. And in many cases, the learners of the same program, even from the same study center, may not know one another. So in such cases of absolute isolation, learning becomes very much difficult. And learning theory suggests that learners can learn better when they are in a group rather than when they are alone. The third important point that we can talk about the importance or the role of learner support services in the field of open and distance learning is because since as a distance learner might not be able to have easy access to other resources. Okay. Because unlike in traditional mode or conventional system, the student who attends the classes, they are being provided notes, they can get hold of other e-books maybe or other, handwritten notes, other handwritten books, other handwritten journals. So they have easy access to that, which might not be that very easy in case of a learner who has enrolled himself or herself under open and distance learning system. So such support services kind of help the learners to provide them easy access to these resources like e-journals or other journals, or other facilities, which becomes very much pertinent when one is pursuing any kind of academic program under open and distance learning system. The another important factor when we talk about the role or the importance of LSS or learner support services in the field of open and distance learning is that usually what happens is that the learner's autonomy, in comparison with the traditional or the conventional system, where the teacher is there to motivate the learners. The motivation factor is very important, because what happens is that when you don't get the desired motivation, the desired push to carry forward your studies, because there has to be someone to guide you. If the teacher doesn't guide you, or if the student or the learner does not receive the requisite amount of guidance for the future studies, then he or she might eventually drop out of the program, leading to a huge loss for the concerned education institution. Now that's why what happened in order to motivate the learners, in order that the learner might not drop out of the program, in order that the learner will continue to pursue the program in spite of different drawbacks. therein comes the role of the different support services. Okay, so that's why support services also play a very important role in motivating the learners. Okay, as such, what happens is that the learners may get distracted. So sometimes what happens, that while pursuing their respective educational curriculum, or while pursuing their respective programs, they might be distracted, or they might diverge from their own way of understanding the entire system. So what happens then, when the required or the concerned counselor or the tutor or the teacher who is in contact with the respective learner at different study centers, it's not necessary only at a particular study center, so they need to guide the student into to make him or her understand the different modalities of working of the open and distance learning system. Okay, the feedback is very important. So such issues, in order to overcome such issues, learner support services becomes very much necessary, and assignments are provided to the learners so that the learners study on their own and also complete the assignments within the specific period of time. And similarly, the broadcast of FM programs, it helps the learners to be in touch with their study even when they are busy otherwise. And the different counseling sessions, it helps the learners to find answers to different queries as well as to motivate them for the self-study. Another important point that we need to look into is striking a balance between work and study. So when we are talking about the importance or the role of learner support services in the field of open and distance learning system, it's not very easy. It's not the different learners who have enrolled in different academic programs and the open and distance learning system are all students. Some are working professionals also. Some are housewives. Some who have actually started, attending classes after long hiatus, or maybe someone has enrolled in any academic program after about 5, 6 or maybe 10 years because they were unable to complete their studies due to either other financial problem or due to other personal problem as such. So what happens is that when it becomes a little bit of a problem to balance between the work and study, it's not very easy. And so it becomes very easy when we provide such kind of learner support services to the learner who has enrolled in any such academic programs under open and distance learning system. And such support services can actually help a learner to utilize their free time and ultimately achieve the ultimate objective of attaining the qualification they were aiming at. It actually allows the learners to pursue study even when the learner is regularly engaged in some other work. And more importantly, the learner can enroll in a program which will help him or her in getting a promotion even when he or she is busy in his or her profession. Then locational impediments also can be overcome with the help of learner support services. This is also another important aspect of introducing support services in the field of open and distance learning system. Its importance is very much, can be seen as very much prominent when we talk about the locational impediments. So locational impediments, it may affect the learning environment of a learner. Okay, suppose for instance, if a learner, he belongs to a very interior place. Okay, it may not be possible for him or her to come over to the urban area or to another place where the respected or where the concerned education institution is situated or where the study center is situated. So such locational disadvantage for the learner because he or she might not be able to attend the classes on every weekend. He or she might come to attend the classes maybe, once a month or maybe twice a month, and that might affect his or her learning ability. So this support services kind of, bridges this particular gap. And the ODL system can reach the unreached and overcome all such barriers. And through the different learner support services, an open and distance learning institute or open university can help a learner to enroll into a program and complete it successfully. So far we have tried to analyze the role of LSS or the role of learner support services in open and distance learning system. Now let's try to figure out the role of the study center or the learning centers in the field of open and distance learning. Why we are focusing on the study centers is because the major crux of all the support services that takes place at the study centers, apart from the main headquarters or the city centers. Now, study centers have a very prominent role to play as far as, disseminating information to the learners is concerned, as far as conducting the different counseling sessions is concerned, as far as offering different kinds of what you call the support services, laboratory facilities, library facilities, radio counseling, telecounseling, and other kind of counseling sessions as well. So the study center establishes a kind of link between the ODL institute or the Open University and its learner. So the first important role when we talk about study center is concerned is getting admitted to a particular program. So when a learner is enrolled in a particular academic program under a specific distance education institute or Open University, he or she is assigned a particular study center to get enrolled into. The main reason is that, unlike conventional traditional university where all the learners, where all the students, they enroll under the university itself. They don't have a specific study center as such. But unlike those traditional mode of universities, in open and distance learning system, there are numerous study centers which are located at some designated colleges that are being recognized by the university. So those study centers are recognized on certain criteria, like they should have a very good classrooms should be there. There should be proper tools, education tools like a proper blackboard, projector, maybe a whiteboard, or maybe access to other online resources, or maybe access to library facilities, laboratory facilities, etc. So these are some of the basic amenities, or you can call some of the basic services that are usually offered at the respective study centers. So when a student gets admitted to a particular program, what is the role the study center has to play in this regard? The concerned person who is in charge of the study center, the center in charge, or maybe the coordinator of the particular study center, or maybe the tutors or the counselors who are engaged with the study center, they need to guide the learner so that the learner might not, diverge from their own way of study. They need to guide the student or the learner to understand the entire curriculum, the entire way of, laying down the timetable, to how to prepare for the examination, how to look after the assignments, how to appear for the examination, and future prospects as such. So these are the specific aspects that the tutors or the counselors, or the administrators of that respective study center should look into. And the study centers also acts as a connecting point. Now, what do we exactly mean by connecting point? It acts as and when we talk about connecting point, it means it acts as a link between the university or the institute and the learner. Because a learner needs to be in touch with the university, and they can be in touch with the Open University or the Distance Education Institute only through the study center. Of course, he or she might be able to come to the main headquarter of the university or main headquarter of the Distance Education Institute for other clarification, for other purposes. But sometimes it might not be possible, to come on a daily basis. So what happens in that case? He or she can connect with the respective coordinator, the respective center in charge of the particular study center, and can get their own, different doubts or different clarifications which they require. That conduct of counseling sessions. So study centers' main role is conducting of different counseling sessions. Now, counseling sessions are very much different than taking regular classes. Regular classes, what happens is that the teacher comes to the class. He or she, will try to cover the different aspects of the different lessons, different units, line by line. Or maybe he or she might give certain assignments to the concerned student or the learner to complete those assignments and submit it next day in their class. Or maybe the teacher might engage or have a kind of group discussion among the students or the learners, and try to talk about on different issues. It's like a two-way kind of communication, which is not that very much possible in case of open and distance learning system, okay, due to certain factors. So what happens in counseling sessions, it's not only meant to take the classes or to teach the students or the learners every particular unit or lesson, but the counseling sessions, the main motive or the main objective is to kind of clarify the doubts actually of the learners. The learners might have different doubts regarding the course structure, regarding the curriculum, regarding examination, regarding assignments. So those different clarifications are also done during the counseling sessions. So that is the difference between a counseling session and a regular classroom session that's usually seen in case of traditional conventional university. And when we talk about counseling session, these are usually conducted in the weekends. Okay. Of course, sometimes what happens in the post-pandemic period, the scenario has little bit changed. Most of the open and distance learning universities or distance education institutes, they are conducting online classes. And those online classes are not necessarily doesn't take place only in the weekends. Okay, those online classes can be held on any days, on any weekdays, as per the convenience of the learner and the counselor. So that facility is also there. And another important role that the study centers play in the field of open distance learning is that continuous evaluation takes place. Now, what do we mean by continuous evaluation? Study center undertakes continuous evaluation. There is formative assessment, there is summative assessment. Evaluation means not only in terms of examination, not only in terms of providing grades or marks to the students, but evaluation in terms of the academic performance, inculcating different values, teaching the students on how to undertake or how to go ahead with the different academic programs as such. So that actually falls under continuous evaluation. Then, as we've already talked about, library services are a very important aspect, or it's a very important part of learner support services. And the study centers or the learning centers, they should have a proper library in place for the students, to get accessible, or for the students to access the different books, different journals, and other printed form of resources. Of course, the learner are being provided with the different study materials, which are commonly be known as self-learning materials. Yet, such library books and other journals, it provides an added, resources for the learner to pursue on any particular topic of interest. Of course, we have examinations, and conduct of examination is a very important role that the study centers have to play. You see, the study centers not only conduct counseling classes, but the different study centers also conduct examinations. And for different academic programs, for bachelor's degree, for diploma programs, or PG diploma programs, for master's programs, so for different academic programs, examinations are being conducted at different study centers. And most of these examinations are term and examination. But it is not mandatory that a study center will also be an examination center. It's not mandatory. In general, depending on the number of learners, easy communication facilities, and other factors, more than one study center may have a common examination center. Another important role that the study center has to play, as far as under the ambit of open distance learning is concerned, is that it serves as an activity center of its learners. Now, what exactly is activity center? We know that study center conducts examination. We are very well aware of the fact that study centers, conduct counseling classes. We are also very much aware that study centers provide different support services to the learners. And more than that, a study center helps a learner to interact with other fellow learners, who can thus form a group among themselves. It's like a kind of, interaction among its different peers. Suppose, for instance, I have taken admission in a particular study center, and I am new to that center. I don't know anyone over there. I go to that particular center, I enroll in a particular academic program, okay. And then on the first day, maybe I meet a few of my peers. So I get to know them. I get to know their background. I ask them about their intention of, enrolling in this particular program. I ask them maybe about their future prospects. I ask them about how they'll continue with this particular. So in a way, I try to build up a friendship. I try to build up a group. I try to engage in conversation, engage in kind of discussion on different issues with my own peers. So in a way, it acts as an activity center. Then of course, study centers also play a very important role as far as placement is concerned. Now we know that learning is a lifelong process and has its own value. So as such, what happens is that getting engaged into a job after the successful passing out of a program may not be the ultimate aim of a learner. But keeping in view the burning problem of unemployment, so it is very much desirable that the learners get into some particular job or services after the successful completion of a program. And the Open University or Open and Distance Learning Institute, through the study centers, may offer such placement services to its learners. Grooming the personalities of the learners is another important aspect, another important role of a study center. Now, what exactly is grooming we are talking about? Here, grooming does not mean that we are grooming someone, for future, or maybe we are providing the best, only best possible education. Grooming means like to preparing someone to get a better job opportunity until and unless he or she is not equipped with certain soft skills like self-presentation and so on and so forth. Such grooming of personalities, it enables a learner to find a firm foothold in this competitive world. There is competition everywhere, in the field of education, in the field of administration, in the field of other business. So wherever you go, there you get numerous opportunities, no doubt, but it's very competitive out there. So proper grooming of the learners is very essential so that they can be taught certain skills, like soft skills. Okay, soft skills, we're talking about self-presentation, communication skills, which may be both verbal and non-verbal, maybe other skills, other personal traits, like other computer skills. So these are certain skills that the learner also might acquire through way of looking around, through way of observation, or by way of experience also. But a proper way of making them understand the skills, showing them how they can make the best possible use of these skills, will go a long way in enabling those learners to find a good job, or maybe to get absorbed in some better prospects. Even when a learner may have very good academic career, such soft skills are very much important, and a study center may help the learner to equip himself or herself with such personal traits and skills. Sometimes what happens is that such kind of skills may be made a part of the curriculum, while in some cases a study center may also take up such training sessions on their own. Then there are other activities as well. So far we have the main important ones are, making them understand what the curriculum is all about, giving them a brief overview of the different academic programs, giving them how they can, attend the different counseling sessions, what they can benefit from the counseling sessions, enabling them to understand the different support services that are being provided to them, or making them understand the entire examination process. So these are some of the basic important points that the counselor or the tutors or the teachers or the concerned person who is in charge of the different study centers, they need to inform the learners. So these are the main important things. Apart from this, there are also other activities which might not be directly related to the curriculum of study. For example, a study center may conduct a workshop, or they might undertake in some lectures or seminars on issues relating to the ODL system or other topic, which might attract as well as benefit the learners. Then when we talk about counseling, we have said that counseling is one of the very important support services that are being provided to the learners as far as open distance learning is concerned. And counseling session, basically it may be defined as an activity that is undertaken by trained skilled professional that seeks to clarify the doubts, the queries that are being raised by the learners of an academic content. And in addition to that, the counseling also implies that a counselor is an overall guide to the learners. Now, as far as the role of counseling sessions is concerned, counseling session is not only a kind of a meeting point between the learner and the counselor or the tutors. Counseling sessions is also, it gives the opportunity for the learner to engage in any kind of discussion, in any kind of deliberation on any topics of interest. And it's not only that the learner will learn from the self-learning material. So counseling session is an added advantage, an added bonus for the learner to engage in any kind of discussion with the teachers. And it is expected that the learners can self-learn. Of course, self-learning materials are there. They can go through the materials without much difficulty, and they can go to the different topics of interest. But even then, there may come up a number of doubts in the minds of the learners. And as such, the counseling sessions or the personal contact programs are undertaken by the study centers or the universities. And when we are talking about the role counseling sessions play in distance education, the number of such sessions is very limited. It's not held every single day. In face-to-face mode, if you talk about face-to-face mode of counseling, it's held only on the weekends. On the weekdays, of course, there is online counseling sessions. Another important aspect of counseling session is that in most of the cases, attending the counseling session is not mandatory. It's not compulsory. Unlike the traditional mode of education system in which you need to attend a certain number of classes, around 70 to 75 classes, attendance is required, to appear for the examination. So, of course, for attending the practical or lab classes, attendance is compulsory. If they have certain specifications are being mentioned in the academic programs. Now, when we talk about counseling sessions, the role the counselors play is also very important. A study center cannot function without the coordinator, without a center in charge, without the tutors or the counselors. So all of these people together, they run the study center. So they're responsible for providing the best possible support services to the learners. Now when we talk about the counselors, the term counselor in distance education has a different connotation. Now he or she is very much different from a conventional teacher. Like a teacher will come to a particular class, he or she will take up the class, he or she will make the student understand the different concepts of a particular lesson, of a particular unit, line by line, or maybe he or she might give notes to the students in the class. But this is not so in case of a counselor, in case of a study center. The counselor will definitely try to explain the different concepts of the different respective academic programs. But apart from that, he or she will try to motivate the learner, so that the learner will become an active learner instead of a passive learner. The counselor's main duty or the aim should be to try to motivate the learners and also encourage them to go through the curriculum of study on their own and raise their queries if they happen to have any queries. So another aspect when we talk about the different personal contact programs, or for that matter, different counseling sessions. Here we are referring to personal contact programs, means they are counseling sessions. So these counseling sessions, it helps the learners to form a peer group. We have already talked about peer group, how when the students come together as a whole, they interact with each other. It creates a kind of belongingness. It creates a kind of bond among themselves, so they can exchange different kind of thoughts. They can exchange different kind of ideas among themselves on different issues. It can be educated related issues, it can be academic related issues, it can be other administrative related issues, and so on and so forth. So a counselor functions as a guide or a mentor to the learners rather than a tutor or a counselor only. They are like a guide to the learners. They are like a mentor to the learners. They shows how the learner can move forward in their on their path to glory. Now, when we talk about the different mediums of learner support services, basically there are a few important mediums which are very much common, and they are used on a wide scale by different open universities or by different distance education institutes across the world. The first important medium is the audio-visual media. Audio-visual media, it is very common in distance education system. Of course, we do provide self-learning materials. We do provide materials in printed form. Yet, such kind of media, it enables the learner to understand the different concepts in a simple way. They can visualize the concepts. They are able to go deep into the matter in a very proper way. And when we talk about audiovisual media, it includes audio tapes, audio CDs. There are video tapes, video CDs, animation, film, documentary, etc. And the very basic important aspect of this audiovisual media is that they are very interactive. They're interactive in nature. Okay, they're informative also, and they can be used with so much of ease as per the convenience of the learners. Apart from audiovisual media, we also have radio and television, another two important mediums of learner support services. Now, radio is very effective. Okay, as we all know, there is nothing to emphasize here more. Radio services, especially the FM radio services, or maybe those institutes, open universities who have their own, community radio centers, they are also effective equally. This kind of services, it provides, a medium of communication with the learners. It provides different, information to the learners on different issues. Then we have television, is also another effective tool for the distance learners. And the distance education provider may use television for telecasting the different education programs in order to reach a large population. Then, of course, we have other online services. We have the different information communication technology. They are used in conjunction with other traditional mode of support services. It has brought a paradigm shift in the field of open and distance learning. So, these days, not only it's all about online learning, it's all about e-learning. It's all about, managing the e-resources, learning support, learning management system. So, new technologies are being come up, new technological tools are being inculcated, being implemented. So, in order to speed up the process of learning. So, in a way, the use of web technology, it has kind of necessitated, the interaction between the learner and the concerned counselor or the teacher. There is a two-way kind of communication. It's not one-way kind of communication. So it has made learning very much interactive. It has made learning interesting, and it has also, kind of delivers the learning process in a much better way. The learner is able to comprehend the matter in a better way. Then, of course, mobile services. These days, almost it's not only about distance education institutes or open universities, even the big conventional or traditional universities, they make use of mobile services in order to keep in touch with the learners. Now, mobile phones has become quite common among the people, among all the age groups. And especially, of course, these days, almost every learner have accessibility to a Android mobile, and which actually one can get access to any e-learning resources at the click of a mouse. So that's the power of mobile technology. Then, of course, there is a traditional support services which are actually provided, that is the self-learning materials in printed form. Okay. Then there is, of course, the peer group support is there. There are other online platforms in which feedback mechanism is being done. The counseling sessions are there. Okay. So, and of course, library services are there. There is career guidance is being provided. So these are some of the basic as we call the different mediums of learner support services. It's now when we talk about support services, it's not only about providing study materials. It's not only about providing library facilities, laboratory facilities, online services. It's also about how we can groom the learners for the future, how we can make them better individuals. Okay, it's all about providing different skills to the learners. Of course, the learners needs to learn on their own on different issues, but apart from that, they also need to be properly guided so that they can move forward in their respective fields without any kind of problem. Guidance is very essential. Guidance, motivation, these are some of the factors that needs to be kept in mind when designing a proper learner support services platform. So this particular module, we have tried to understand the role learner support services play in the field of open and distance learning system, the role of the study centers in the field of open and distance learning center, and then of course the role of the counselors, or how the counselors try to engage with the learners while undertaking the different counseling sessions. Then of course the different mediums of learner support services. So this particular module, I assume, will give a better overview of you all, of understanding the working of all the importance and the need of maintaining learner support services in the field of open and distance learning system. So with this, I end my discussion on this particular module. Thank you.